God is my T-wall barrier. While serving on active duty, I deployed for 2 tours to Afghanistan. And as a chaplain, I often flew to these tiny little military bases on the desert floor called FOBs, or Forward Operating Bases. One main characteristic of these FOBs were these T-shaped walls we simply called T-walls. They earned this nickname because the wall's cross-sectional shape resembled an inverted T. They ranged from 9 to roughly 18 feet tall. They served a very obvious and invaluable role. They blocked what the enemy fired at us. Now granted, sometimes enemy rockets or mortars hit on the inside of our FOBs, but there have been numerous occasions where lives were saved because a T-wall barrier absorbed the fiery blast of an enemy's ordnance. We were so grateful for that. In the book of Psalms, King David, the Old Testament Israeli king, compares God to a variety of formidable defense structures. Here's what he writes in Psalm 18, verses 1 to 3. I love the Lord, my strength. The Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer. My God is my rock, in whom I take refuge. He is my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold. I call to the Lord, who is worthy of praise, and I am saved from my enemies. David describes God with solid terminology. He is a rock, which symbolizes a firm foundation. He is a fortress or an impregnable haven where we seek shelter from our enemies. He is a refuge and stronghold where we can mount an effective defense against the rampage of our adversaries. The Hebrew word for shield in this verse is magen, and it refers to the small round shield carried by light infantry. This was a handy device when blocking the swipe of an enemy's blade. The term is also used figuratively of God as being the one who supplies a covering or surrounding in order to defend someone. David's life, while checkered with successes and failures, still maintained a tight relationship with God throughout. It was during many episodes of enemy attacks that David came to know God as a reliable shield. God protected him from virtually every conceivable form of attack. Such was his walk with God. He knew what it meant to be centered in God's will and remain dependent on God's direction and provision. Conversely, he also knew what it was like to operate outside of God's will and therefore his protection. We can certainly relate to this, can't we? Where we run independently of God into the fray, we are defenseless against the wiles of the devil, as described in Ephesians 6:11. David knew this, which is why most of the time he relied on the unconquerable and an inexhaustible strength of God to protect him from his enemies. Fortunately, most of us are not in danger of being hit by Taliban 107mm rockets. However, our enemies are not just terrorists. The people we work with could classify as enemies when they hurl their verbal shrapnel at us. Family members could unwittingly play a role in fracturing our self-esteem with their reckless metallic words. Criticism, condescension, and patronizing speech can impact our souls and leave craters in our hearts. In these cases, we do not need a medic to pull a metal shard from our flesh. We need a mighty God to absorb the damaging effects of these emotionally jagged fragments that rip us to shreds. We need a T-wall of divine intervention to protect us when the world lobs their accusatory mortars at us. As we reflect on this, ask yourself these questions. First, what enemy attacks has God protected me from? And once you have the answer, thank Him for His refuge-like safety He has faithfully provided. Second, is God my refuge, or am I more of a loner in life? If that is you, I simply want to encourage you that He is ready, willing, and able to be there for you. God can neutralize the blast. He can absorb the impact and render you unscathed as you find your security within the confines of His invincible refuge. God is mighty wall barrier. He can be yours too, if you'll let Him.